Hey guys, this list is for my top 5 least favorite albums 2013. Before anything else, I want to make a couple things clear. First off, if you happen to like any of these albums I'm going to be talking about, great. I'd love to hear any opposing opinions you might have in the comments, as long as it's just more than fangirl tantrums. Also, keep in mind that throughout this, I never, and I mean never, go into an album wanting to hate it. In fact, as you'll notice, most of these are just huge disappointments from bands and artists I'm generally a fan of. I could listen to the new Blood and Dance Floor or Lil Wayne or Falling in Reverse or Will I Am album just to tear a new one, but that'd just be too easy and take time away from stuff I'd be more interested in listening to. So with that out of the way, here we go. I feel an honorable mention should be given to Megadeth's Super Collider. While I wasn't as absolutely enraged by this album as pretty much every metalhead I've come across this year, and I thought there was a handful of great tracks, I still consider this a very subpar Megadeth album. Most of the time the music's nothing especially memorable, and a lot of the attempts at socio-political commentary just come off lazy and phoned in. Also, if you're looking for a good laugh, check out the bonus track All I Want. It's cock rock sung by Dave Mustaine. Need I say more? Anyway, at number 5 is Old Sock by Eric Clapton. Instead of the blues guitar icon using what's shown to be his strong suit, namely the upbeat, catchy mix of blues and pop rock that he's been practically trademarking for decades, most of this album is devoted to boring, time-wasting covers of 30s and 50s songs that involve little to none of Clapton's personality to make it his own. And the problem isn't even that it's not original material for the most part, as shown by past covers albums like From the Cradle. And occasionally, this isn't the case for the covers, which can actually be pretty good on a couple occasions, but it's not exactly often. The problem is that Clapton didn't pick the right songs, and in my opinion, he just doesn't work as a standards crooner. Also, if this was a list of worst album covers, this last-minute vacation photo would top it. Number 4 is Magnetic by Goo Goo Dolls. I'll admit that out of all the albums here, this is the one where I'm the least a fan of the band or artist in question. Still, earlier last year, I listened to A Boy Named Goo and absolutely loved it, so I figured I'd try out their new one. Unfortunately, with few exceptions, what I got was a pack of uninspired, pretentious, chick flick-ready radio rock tracks that try way too hard to be deep without bringing anything new to any of the concepts being talked about. They just kind of bleed into each other in a way that I just find underwhelming in all areas. Number 3 is B.O.B.'s Underground Luxury. As a fan of his first 2 commercially released albums that just couldn't stand his Fuck 'Em We Ball mixtape, I was hoping that this well-known rapper would redeem himself here. Unfortunately, he didn't. Look, I'm not absolutely opposed to rap music that talks about sex and drugs and clubs and all that, if it's creative or packed with personality enough to make it enjoyable. But that's exactly what Underground Luxury isn't. It's basically an hour-long 2 Chainz impression over generic and derivative trap beats. There are some very well-written moments scattered throughout the album where Bob actually uses his instrumental and production skills, but it's so jarring switching from one to another that the album listening just gets more and more frustrating as he morally contradicts himself left and right on several occasions here, and not even in a self-aware way like on Where Are You from Strange Clouds. And clearly a lot of people are as let down as me, because compared to those 2 albums, for both the singles and the album itself, this one bombed hard on the Billboard charts. Number 2 is Bon Jovi's What About Now. If this were a list of my biggest disappointments of 2013, this would top the list, no doubt in my mind about it. I know it's not exactly a cool thing to say nowadays, but I've been a fan of Bon Jovi for over half my life, since around the Have a Nice Day era, and this is the first album there as I just don't like. This album is the absolute epitome of a band that has run out of ideas and insists on just recycling a formula over and over again from track to track, with next to nothing interesting or memorable to offer. These lyrics not only use every self-motivation and overcoming hardships cliche in the book, but at times they're almost insultingly preachy and messianic. What I see at this point is that Bon Jovi knows that they have a set audience that doesn't care about actual quality, so they figured they didn't even need to try with this one. What I find especially interesting is that guitarist Richie Sambora's 2012 solo album, Aftermath of the Lowdown, is miles better, catchier, and more creative than anything found here. So is it John's fault? I don't know. But in any case, this was my first and biggest disappointment of the year. And my number one worst album of 2013 is Justin Timberlake's The 2020 Experience 2 of 2. Throughout this list, I've used words like boring, or underwhelming, or mediocre, as in, stuff that's just mildly annoying, but ultimately forgettable and easy to brush off. With this album, on the other hand, I'd use words like insufferable, or obnoxious, or insulting. For the record, I actually did like the first 2020 Experience. Sure, I felt it was dragged down heavily by the drawn-out song lengths. It didn't really add to the songs one bit, but at least there, the core songs were well-written and sincere. Here, though, there's not even that little saving grace. There's a grand total of 2.5 songs here that I don't think are terrible, that being Take Back the Night, Amnesia, and the first half of Only When I Walk Away. That's it. Look, I want to love a JT album. I really do. He's easily one of the most talented pop stars of all time, and you can tell he puts a lot into his work. But that's just the problem. He puts too much into his work. Whether it's just a remixer itself, adding redundant song within a song, or just repeating the instrumental part ad nauseum, these outros and interludes are almost never necessary. The problem to me is that JT is just simply too ambitious for his own good. He said he was inspired to do long stuff by Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, but even they knew when to keep a song short. Imagine what would happen if Good Times, Bad Times, or Run Like Hell were given the 2020 treatment. And going back to the point about this album in particular, the core songs are packed with cringe-worthy sex metaphors and pickup lines, and little to nothing else more, with not even the instrumentals packing much of a punch most of the time. I never wanted to say it's about a JT album, but this sucks. Just plain sucks. To me, anyway. Again, I can't emphasize enough. If you have your own thoughts on any of these albums, whether or not they mirror my own, let me know in the comments. Just be reasonable about it, and there won't be any problems. All the reviews for these albums are linked in the description, by the way, if you want to see me elaborate more on my thoughts on these. Fortunately, my next list video will be more positive. It'll be my last one for now, and I'll count down my top 25 albums of 2013. See you guys.